Yo, 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 this is your host with the most. As a new YouTuber, you often find yourself in this situation where you spend hours of time making a video, and when you upload it, you just get hit with no views at all. And you ask yourself, like, am I shadow banned? Is there something wrong with the algorithm? And this often leads to you trying to solve this problem by making a better thumbnail or title for the video. But the real problem is actually different. It's that you're asking YouTube to tell you who your audience is, rather than telling YouTube yourself who your audience should be. Now, who am I to tell you any of this? Well, I'm a soon-to-graduate business student who is specialized in early-stage startups. My aim is to gather information from YouTube gurus and bring it together and present it in a simple form. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you how the YouTube algorithm actually works, and then I'm going to tell you how to find a YouTube niche like a startup would. So let's get started. How does the YouTube algorithm actually work? YouTube has a unique problem. As a platform, it has a problem of how to keep people interested on its platform, watching videos for as long as possible, but with very different interests and very different backgrounds. The solution to this problem is the YouTube algorithm. And the step one of this algorithm is to identify all the people on the platform by their interests. And this is the so-called niches of YouTube. Now the second part is to categorize all the videos that get uploaded on YouTube by niche. And when you actually upload a video, YouTube makes a guess of who this video should be recommended to. And then it recommends your videos in different tiers. Now it always starts with tier 1, and it recommends the video to a really small group. And this is the group that YouTube assumes is the most passionate about your video, who are most likely to click on it and like the video. If YouTube actually sees that this group of people is interested with your content, then it advances to the next tier. And in the second tier, YouTube actually increases that audience a bit more, and it makes it by making it less specific and targeting viewers that are not your defined target audience, but who are really closely related to that. So it's sort of like blurring the edges of the niche a bit and taking people from surrounding niches to see the video. And if the video still performs well at this stage, it advances to the next tier, where it's even larger audience, even more general in its interests, and YouTube does this as many times before the video actually starts to perform poorly. In summary, each of these tiers accesses a larger audience, but has a worse match. Here's a simple example of this. So the first tier, for example, for this video would be new YouTubers who have the goal to actually reach 1,000 subscribers in a year. Now, the second tier after that would be all the new YouTubers who are interested about improving in general. Third tier could be mid-sized YouTubers. Fourth tier, all the content creators on the platform. And finally, in the fifth stage, if the video would perform well, up until that point, it would reach the general audience. Now, the mistake that many people make when they upload a video or make a video is that they want to reach a big audience. So what many new YouTubers do is making a video for everyone, but not specifically for anyone. What this means is that when YouTube tries to figure out who your target audience is, it does a pretty poor job doing that. And as a result, it's miscategorizing your video's niche and showing it to people who aren't actually that passionate about what you're saying. As a result, your video underperforms in the first tier, where YouTube expects the most interaction, the most engagement, and it never reaches any larger audiences. And this is the main reason why videos tend to just get no views at all. When you upload a video, it gets like 7 views. This is exactly the reason. The audience is unclear and YouTube just doesn't know who would be interested about watching that video. So now that we know the problem, how do we actually solve it? And I'm actually going to give you a system that many early stage startups actually use to find their first customers. Here's a general rule to follow. The smaller your channel size is, the more specific you want to be in your choice of niche. What this means is that you want to aim for high resonance, really personalized content for a specific person when you're just starting out. And as you keep growing your channel, that's when making more general videos becomes a strategy. Because what large channels want is larger audiences, and they have to trade that specificity and resonance with the audience for that audience size. But small channels actually have an unfair advantage where they can really target those people who the larger channels don't want to target. There's also a small channel's dilemma, which is that when you make a great video and you have put lots of hours to making that video, when that video gets shown to the audience next to other videos that have high views, there's always gonna be that stigma of no views on the video. But this essentially communicates to the audience is that this video is a waste of time. Since it has no views, there's no value on clicking on it. So how do you actually counteract this psychological phenomenon? So what startups actually do when they look for their first customers is that they target the very first early adopters called innovators, who are a really small minority of people, but who are actually ready to give the small and unknown player a chance because they gain so much value from doing that. These people who tend to adopt things first are usually people who fall between niches. And they also tend to have rare problems that not many people have, such as how to bake mooncakes for my cat. And they have really rare combination of interests as well. For example, they might be interested in space, baking, and cats in this example. And there's a really small amount of these people out there. And this is the reason why when big guys are looking for audiences to target, they're not usually making content for these people. And because there's not much supply for these people, they are usually ready to give a small channel a chance, given that there is a high resonance. So how do startups actually find these unique niches? Well, a great thing about innovators or these earliest adopters is that they are usually actively looking for solutions. As a result, you might find these people posting and asking questions on different forums, such as Reddit, for example. A thing you can do is to actually go on Reddit and just browse different subreddits and see what kind of questions do people ask in these unique niches. Another technique you can use is simply brainstorming unique combinations of interests. Like I did on the last example, where I combined space and baking and cats. You can look for a unique combination of interests and combine those to create a completely new niche that doesn't exist before. A third technique that you can use is to actually look at yourself and try to identify unique interests that you have that could be potentially a unique niche. And if you can manage to find a unique combination of interests, you can actually build a niche and channel around these. And in that case, you might be your own ideal viewer as well. And no matter what technique you use to find that niche, you always want to create a profile for your ideal viewer. So you really want to know in specific who your ideal viewer is. You want to define things such as their gender, their age, where they live, how much they earn, what do they do for their living, what hobbies or interests do they have, what kind of problems do they have, and what kinds of aspirations do they have. And once you have created your best guess of who your ideal viewer could be, then you can test this guess by creating an MVP. So, what is an MVP? Well, in this context, it doesn't stand for most valuable player, but it stands for minimum viable product. This is actually something that early stage startups use to validate their target audience and the solution that they have created for a problem that their audience has. And a really core principle of MVPs is that you create the most bare bones solution that can actually solve the problem for the customer. So you drop all the things that don't matter and you solely focus on the things that actually provide the value. This actually helps to counteract something that most new YouTubers do, which is that they tend to focus on things that don't really matter for the value that they create, and they miss all the things that actually matter for value creation. And what actually matters when you're making videos as a new YouTube channel is to solve a problem that actually exists. And this also comes with, of course, targeting the right audience and making the right guess about who they are. What doesn't really matter when you're testing new ideas is your editing style, how you speak in front of the camera, how interesting your B-roll might be, or any of the mistakes that you make while making the video. So, how do you do this in practice? How do you actually make an MVP and test it out on YouTube? Well, there's 3 core principles that you actually want to follow when you do this. And the first one is to actually make a video for a specific person. You really want to know throughout the process of making that video who the video is intended for. And if you can embed this in all parts of the video, the topic, the style, the editing, the mood, all of that, then you make it much easier for YouTube's algorithm to actually find that target audience and recommend the video to them. Now, the second principle is to stick to solving a specific problem. And the goal of your video should always be to solve that problem for your audience and nothing else. Like everything else on top of that is just the extra spice. And this is because the most important factor, the most important reason why people click on the video is that they have a problem that they want to be solved. And finally, the third principle is to stick to only things that truly matter to solve that problem. You shouldn't be wasting hours of time on editing stuff that your audience didn't even ask for. So you should keep it at the bare minimum and focus solely on things that provide value. And you have reached the end of the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you want feedback on your channel and your videos, then make sure to leave a comment down below, and I will check out your videos and give you some feedback on how to improve. Also, if you share my goal to reach 1,000 subscribers, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more content like this in the future. As I said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.